perform, and that duty hinges upon making sure that our party's agenda is carried out in Parliament. That is, there's a seamless operation between the executive and the Parliament to advance the policies of the party and indeed the policies of His Excellency, the President and his government. Therefore, they will be looking for people who are going to go to Parliament to make sure that that agenda is carried out to the fullest. So, for example, if you've been an MP who has simply sat in Parliament and never spoken, you will pay a price. If you have been an MP who has sat in Parliament and obstructed the executive from getting its agenda because of what you think should, your own, little selfish aspirations, you will pay a price, and so on and so forth.
Let me quickly do this with you, gentlemen. I'll walk you. I'm going to ask every one of you to pick one constituency that you think is of interest or will be of interest to Ghanaians. I begin with you again, Kojo.
Well, let me be very.
Just one.
Let me do two.
I want you to do one. Okay, do two. Which places to watch?
North Tong. That's Samir Kujeto's constituency. I'm an unashamed supporter of his. I'm bowed and I'm bridled supporter of his. I want to see Sami in Parliament. I am encouraged by the fact that there are 7 or so aspirants challenging the MP. It means, statistically that they are dissatisfied in that constituency with his performance, and I hope it goes to inures to Sami's benefit. The second one is Fifi Kwete's constituency. Fifi Kwete must be in Parliament. He's a fantastic advocate for this party,
what the chances
and
of these candidates are. Felix, which 2 places are of interest to you?
Well, I think Elembele, where the Deputy Minister for Energy, Kofi Amabwa, is also interesting. I have confidence in his ability to retain the slot, and also Sami Okudjeto's seats. It's absolutely vital that he gets there. He's a young, assertive, energetic person who will bring a lot of impetus to bear on the NDC's work. And of course, Fifi Kwete's constituency is absolutely critical that he secures it. Yes, I'm
2 places.
Well,
you think Ghanaians will be keenly following?
Oh, in terms of keenly following, Okudjeto Ablakwa's constituency clearly will be followed. There are those who are praying and wishing that he would lose. I've been through that constituency, and I if anything other than he winning the seat on Saturday happens, I'll be very, very surprised. And I know that he would win. I also very strongly hope and pray that Fifi Kwete would also win his seats, and Honorable Duajahu would also retain
now,
his
gentlemen,
seat.
let me quickly run you through the lists, and then you tell me what you think. Michael Telnyano is in this race.
Well,
constituents. What are your expectations?
To be honest with you, his utterances and conduct have not inured to the benefit of this government. He has become more of a liability than an asset. So I'm sure the people of Lower Manya have taken notice and would advise themselves accordingly.
Kojo, you think so?
I hope he loses.
Stan?
What else?
Michael Telnyano.
What else?
Okay. And lawyer Chris Akume has indicated his preparedness to be in this race as well. Kojo?
I wish him well. I know that Chris has had a few challenges. Those challenges were resolved. Maybe a little late, but I am still hoping and praying, because Chris will be a fantastic addition to Parliament. He's been a fantastic advocate for this party, a hard-working workaholic, for His Excellency the President, and I wish him well. I really do.
Felix?
Well, I'm not too familiar with the dynamics of that particular constituency, but information I'm picking up is that it's quite a difficult terrain for lawyer Chris Akume. But he has my full backing, given that he's someone who has expressed the desire to help the NDC achieve its.
Koshiga is in that constituency as well. Rocky Amuji is also in that constituency as well, in addition to the sitting MP. So it makes it quite a dicey situation. I think that Rocky is giving Richard and Chris a run for their money, but let's pray and see who comes out of that race.
Okay, now Honorable Boya Garba.
Well, I wish her well. I mean, again, her being a woman, for me, places her as a certain advantage, because we require a lot more women in our parliament, especially on the side of the NDC. Mind you, we are aspiring to reach 40% complementation in terms of appointments and all that. She's already a deputy minister for women and children's affairs. Her going to parliament will greatly enhance the representation of women in that august body. So I wish her well, and I hope that she wins that seat.
Now, Dr. Kwabena Donkor.
Well, Dr. Kwabena Donkor seems to have done a lot of work in the constituency in the Bronga Afro region, and the sitting MP also seems to have done some work, but he had some challenges with some sections of the constituency at a certain point. As to whether Kwabena Donkor's engagement with the people and the challenges that the city MP has with the constituents would inure to either of them's benefit is another thing to say. But we hope that the two of them are all perfect gentlemen, so we hope that the better one wins.
Now, Hannah Bisi Kojo, Dr. Hannah.
No,
she won. Ni Amasana Mwale, I've heard him roll out massive
I think
publicity.
he's a very, very strong candidate. He's a very, very formidable candidate. I can't see him lose. It's, I think that, I will probably have advised his challengers to pull out and save their resources for another day.
One of his challengers is a former secretary of his in his constituency, in his MP's office. I do not think that she is any strong contender. Namwale is a hands-on, practical person who lives daily with his community. But as we always say, the minds of delegates are something else. But I do hope that he wins, at least.
But why would he roll out, radio advertisement in a campaign of this nature? Well,
you see, in matters of this nature, it depends on who is advising you on your marketing communications. Because if you ask me, you are dealing with delegates who are a specific, subset of the party within the community that you can reach out to. It's not a general thing. So I wouldn't advise you to spend money on that. But, well, it depends.
You see, it depends on the context. Don't forget that the particular radio station he put his adverts out it's a radio station that almost every bona fide NDC member will listen to in the morning. Some of us have never turned off our dials from that radio station since God knows when. So it goes I would have thought that maybe something like a television advert would be overkill. But I think that a targeted, niche-oriented advert at a place where people will be listening is very important.
Kojo, now you sound more like a marketing man than the engineer that you are. You're still tuning to the Majority Caucus here on Multi TV. We're taking another break. Please don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is the Majority Caucus here on Multi TV. My name is James Ejenim Boatin. This evening, we're privileged to have with us Felix Kwachi Ofosu, who is convener of Research and Advocacy Platform. He's also an analyst in the area of oil and gas. Stan Hwesedogbe is a presidential aide, and Kojo Chumbafu, Chief Executive Officer of a Ghana Free Zones Board. By way of information, 400 communities in the Upper West region are being connected to the national electricity grid. 350 units of classroom blocks have been initiated and completed, and over 300 boreholes have also been drilled. Information courtesy Deputy Regional Minister Honorable Caesar Khalid, who spoke on an Accra radio station this morning. Welcome back, gentlemen. Now, I'll begin with you, Stan. A very, very significant or is an important announcement has been made sometime today, at the heart of which is about the dismissal of Attorney General and Minister for Justice Martin Amidu. What explains that?
Oh, well, I think the explanation is very, very clear. The decision is a result of Mr. Amidu's misconduct at a meeting last Friday, January 13th, presided over by His Excellency the President. Mr. Amidu's behavior is incompatible with acceptable standards expected of ministers and appointees of the President. I mean, quite clearly, if you're an appointee of the President, you are working for the state, and your conduct is unacceptable, it does not meet the standards that the minister...
How do you mean? Was this exhibited in a meeting or something?
Yes, in a meeting that was presided over by His Excellency the President on Friday, January 13th. He misconducted himself, and having misconducted himself, The president thinks that he does not represent the examples that he even wants to set for the people of this country. If you do not respect your colleagues, you do not respect His Excellency the President and other senior members of government, there's absolutely no reason for you to be in the administration.
Let me come to you, Felix. You have long called for Mr. Amidu's head. I mean, earlier on, over the last weekend, I mean, following a statement that he issued. But Mr. Amidu's point in that statement is that he is an anti-corruption campaigner, and I mean, if you read his statement carefully, it appeared that he was protecting the public purse. But now with this dismissal,
not to jump, stop Felix, but I think that statement for me just represented a desperate person's actions.
How?
Now, don't forget that you and I know that ever since His Excellency the President granted an interview to Radio Good and mentioned that he was going to reshuffle his cabinet, many ministers and deputy ministers have been engaged in various actions. Some have, gotten their tribesmen to issue statements to say that they are doing so well and they must be allowed to stay, etc. That statement was just an opportunistic statement, as far as I am concerned, by a minister of state who clearly knew that the axe was going to fall on him and thought that this was an opportunity, to do something and say something so that, either it would prevent his reshuffling or might lead to some discussions to happen, and then when he is removed, he can look for excuses. I think that statement, as Felix has said last weekend, was totally uncalled for. It was insulting to the National Democratic Congress as a party. It was insulting to the government and the presidency of John Evans Atta Mills. Totally uncalled for. If you want to protect your position because you want to stay in a certain position, you do not take advantage of the system to do what he did.
Stan, I don't get that from the statement. This is a man who says that he did not beg for his position.
Well, I mean, he did not beg for his position, and he claimed that he was given the job on 4 occasions. That is absolutely not true. I can say on authority as a member of the NDC Transition Committee that he so much expected to be appointed Attorney General that when Mrs. Betty Modusu's name was announced as Attorney General in that conference center, he packed his things and left the meeting of the social committee, social services committee, legal committee, because he thought that he should be made a minister. And every day, if you speak to people, he had strongly made that point. So I'm surprised that he rather said that he was begged on 4 occasions. No such begging took place. I do not believe that any phone calls came from Boku, Bema Camp, etc. It was just an act of a desperate person, and that's it.
Kojo, should the whistleblower Martin Amidu have been dismissed, sacked?
I don't think the Honorable Martin Amidu blew any whistle. What he did was engage in acts that are unbecoming of somebody who is supposed to be a team player. Let's not forget that there are 19 members of cabinet, and I think in addition to the president and others, there's a caucus of people who attend cabinet, and this is the highest decision-making body in the country. Everything they do and say at that meeting affects our lives in various ways. Now, if you as the chief law enforcement officer of this government have identified a criminal in your midst, you should be able to point that criminal out without going through the ravages of issuing a statement laden with insult, laden with innuendo, laden with untruths. And then when you are invited to clarify the statement, you misconduct yourself, further. So let me just go straight for those who are thinking, and especially those people within the Elephantine Brigade who think that this is an opportunity for them to try and foment the process of equalization that they are going through, calling NDC names, that now we have a whistleblower in your midst and you are suddenly relieving him of that is not the point. The point is that Mr. Martin Amidu did not submit himself to the discipline of being in a collective. He did not submit himself to the discipline of understanding that he is appointed at the pleasure of the man who has been asked by Ghanaians to lead us till at least till the end of 2012 and beyond. And so